Good morning everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're going to dive into an important topic, understanding and preventing employee fraud. Through this presentation, we'll explore the fraud triangle framework, which helps us analyze the motivations, opportunities, and rationalizations behind fraudulent behavior. Our goal is to equip you with insights that can strengthen integrity across your organization. Let's get started. When we talk about who commits fraud, it's important to first recognize that perpetrators are often employees or managers who have access to valuable assets or sensitive information. These individuals are in positions where they can exploit resources or data for personal gain. To understand why fraud happens, we can look at the fraud triangle, which identifies three key elements: pressure, opportunity, and rationalization. Pressure might come from financial difficulties or personal problems, opportunity arises when controls are weak or absent, and rationalization is how the person justifies their dishonest actions. By analyzing these factors, we gain a clearer picture of the motivations behind fraudulent behavior. This framework helps us not only identify risks but also develop strategies to prevent fraud from occurring in the first place. When we talk about the fraud triangle, we're looking at three critical factors that come together to create the conditions for fraud to occur. First, there's pressure. This is the motivation or need driving someone to commit fraud, often because they're facing financial difficulties or other personal stresses. Next is opportunity. This is about having the means to carry out the fraud, which usually happens when there are weaknesses in controls or oversight. Finally, we have rationalization. This is the mental process where the person convinces themselves that their dishonest actions are justified or acceptable somehow. Understanding these three elements helps us identify and prevent potential fraud risks effectively. Pressure is often the main force that drives individuals to commit fraud. When people face financial difficulties, like mounting personal debt or sudden, unexpected expenses, the urge to find a quick solution can become overwhelming. Similarly, personal problems such as family emergencies or serious health issues can create intense emotional strain, pushing someone toward unethical choices. Workplace stress also plays a significant role, whether it's unrealistic performance goals or the fear of losing their job. Both employees and managers can feel immense pressure. These factors combined increase the temptation or the perceived need to commit fraud as a way to alleviate their struggles. Understanding these pressures is crucial to addressing the root causes of fraudulent behavior. Fraud opportunities typically arise when there are weaknesses in an organization's controls and supervision. One major risk factor is a lack of segregation of duties, where a single person has control over multiple critical functions. This concentration of responsibility can make it easier for fraudulent activities to go unnoticed. Additionally, insufficient oversight and infrequent audits create gaps in monitoring that fraudsters can exploit. Another common issue is unrestricted access to valuable assets like cash, inventory, or sensitive information, which makes it simpler for fraud to occur. To counter these risks, strong internal controls are essential. This includes implementing proper authorization procedures, conducting regular and independent reviews, and limiting access to key assets. Together, these measures help to reduce vulnerabilities and act as a deterrent against fraudulent behavior. When individuals commit fraud, one of the key ways they cope with the guilt is through rationalization. They create mental justifications that make their actions seem less wrong, allowing them to ease their feelings of guilt. Commonly, people convince themselves that they deserve the money because they feel underpaid or undervalued in their job. Others believe the company owes them something, perhaps due to perceived injustices or unmet promises. Some even view their fraudulent actions as a temporary loan, with the intention of paying it back later. These psychological justifications are powerful because they help individuals detach from the reality of their actions, making it easier for them to commit fraud without seeing themselves as criminals. This process of rationalization is a critical concept to understand when addressing fraudulent behavior. When we look at the profiles of fraud perpetrators, a few key characteristics stand out. First, these individuals usually have access to valuable assets or sensitive information. This access is often a critical factor that enables them to carry out fraudulent activities. Second, Their motivation frequently revolves around financial gain, although sometimes it's about avoiding disciplinary actions or other negative consequences. Third, personal stress factors play a significant role. Many perpetrators are dealing with personal challenges or pressures that drive their behavior. Recognizing these common profiles is crucial because it helps organizations identify potential risks early on and develop targeted prevention strategies that address the root causes effectively. When we look at the motivations behind fraud, the first and most common one is financial gain. People may commit fraud because they want extra income or a financial boost beyond what they normally earn. Another key motivation is the desire to avoid penalties. Sometimes individuals resort to fraudulent behavior to escape sanctions or negative consequences tied to poor performance. Then, there's the reaction to perceived unfair treatment. If someone feels they are being treated unjustly, whether through unfair pay or poor working conditions, they might justify fraudulent actions as a form of retaliation. Importantly, these factors rarely act alone. When financial pressure combines with the opportunity to commit fraud, especially under stressful or unfair circumstances, the risk of fraudulent activity increases significantly. Understanding these motivations helps us address the root causes and better prevent fraud. Here's a case study that really highlights how employee fraud can unfold. It started when an accounting employee exploited weak expense controls to embezzle $150,000 over the course of 18 months. What drove this behavior was significant personal debt, which created immense financial pressure on the individual. The opportunity came from poor supervision and a lack of proper checks on expense reports, allowing the fraud to go undetected for so long. The employee justified their actions by feeling underpaid and believing the company owed them compensation, which is a common rationalization in cases like this. Eventually, the fraud was uncovered through an internal audit, leading to the employee's termination and legal prosecution. This case underscores the importance of strong controls and oversight to prevent such situations. To effectively prevent fraud, it's crucial to understand the key elements involved. By recognizing the typical profiles of fraudsters, their motivations, and how the fraud triangle operates, organizations can better detect and address fraudulent behavior early on. Equally important is establishing strong internal controls that reduce opportunities for fraud to occur in the first place. Staying aware of the common rationalizations and pressures that lead to fraud helps maintain a high level of vigilance among employees and management. Ultimately, adopting this comprehensive approach not only reduces risks but also fosters a culture of integrity and accountability throughout the organization.